Hey, what's up everybody? It's Kellen here from Start Your Systems, and welcome back to MX Simulator, where today I'm going to be playing the Southwick National, the 2018 version in MX Simulator, and trying this track out a little bit. I haven't played it much myself. Talk about it a little bit, and then obviously break down into some real life thoughts and opinions as the Southwick National has now come and gone, and we will have the Redbud National coming up this weekend, so I'm sporting my USA, kind of like our military appreciation stuff that we had back in Supercross that, well, I guess it was never released, but oh my god, if this is really going to be the case where I crash every straightaway, I am not going to be too happy about this video. Alright, let's get all that frustration out of the way and move on forward. So this is Southwick, and it's another lovely creation by the, I guess they'd be called the Race Factor Gaming track crew, because this series is brought to you by Race Factor Gaming once again. So, yeah, they did a good job. It produced really good racing. The guys have been working really hard on the road settings to get them to work a little bit better, and I felt like that they found a really good mix of everything. I have a road on 10 for this single player stuff, so you'll see it probably wear a little bit more than it should. But I don't know, I just figured see the track breakdown more than not in this video would be a good thing to show off a little bit. So yeah, like I said, good track. Really enjoy Southwick every year. I actually did really well there the last year that I raced it in sim. I think I went 4-6 for 5th, and then that was the last time I raced outdoors, was back in 2016. Good fun track. Made my MX Sim debut here as well in 2012, and I like the sand tracks. I'll leave it at that, and we'll move on to the real stuff, because I feel like I have a lot to talk about in this video when it comes to real life motocross. I'm of course talking about the AMA National Series. I reserved the GP discussion for MXGP Pro gameplay now. But yeah, let's talk about the 450 class first, because sometimes I switch it up and do 250 class, but 450 class is usually where it's at, and it was where it was at this weekend. Once again, we have, in my opinion, the two best riders on this side of the ocean laying claim to the field. I mean, I think when his arms were good, Ken Roczen is in that group. But Marvin Musquin and Eli Tomac are on a different level right now. Some people have been, saying, well, Barsh is a tick off, Baggett's a tick off, Roczen's clearly got some speed, but he just can't last. And while all kind of true, it's been proven time and time again this year already that Marvin and Eli can pretty much slice through the field however and whenever they would like. And if they start out front, they're not going to get touched. So pretty much both motos, that's what they did. They started right near the front. Musquin got into the lead early in the first moto and was trying to set sail a little bit, and then Eli got into second, started reeling him in, and caught him, I mean, well before we even got to halfway. I mean, it looked like the pace that he was going and the comfort level he had, that, oh no, he's going to catch him and he's going to go around and take off. But no, Marvin held his ground and produced a really good race for us to watch. I mean, people need to understand that without Marvin here, I'm not saying Eli would still be 24-0 bound, but it would be a hell of a lot boring to watch these races if we did not have Marvin in the USA. So I love that there's someone there that can challenge Tomac, because like I said, I think that this guy is the cream of the crop right now. He's the best, if not the second best rider on the planet right now, and to have someone that can still give it to him as good as he is kind of mind-blowing to me. Watching those guys every week do what they do, where they pull out humongous leads. I mean, that first moto, Marvin crashed, and so let me kind of wrap it up first before I break it down into the whole thoughts of everything. Tomac got him late, but Marvin did a really masterful job of holding him off. And this is where we get into this discussion of cross-jumping French call-me bastard crap that I see countless dumb American fans always bringing up. And I agree, Marvin does cross-jump. In that race, he did nothing wrong. There wasn't anything that was out of the ordinary that, you know, other guys would not do or anything along those lines. So did he come over on Tomac when Tomac finally passed him? Yeah, he did, but he was also trying to block the line, and you know, once Tomac was there, it's not like he just kept driving into him. He eventually turned left. Like, he's just a hard-nosed racer. Really nice guy, hard-nosed racer. And Tomac, to his credit, ate Roos for 20 minutes and looked like he was out of tear-offs from what I saw, like from what I could tell of what he was doing with his goggles. Finally got around him and did what he needed to do, which was basically kind of, you know, put the hammer down as soon as he got around him so that there was no response from Marvin. And Marvin eventually crashed in the section coming up after the start straight here. But, I mean, you got to hand it to both of those guys. Like, it just pissed me off going, you know, to social media after that race and seeing people complaining, like either side of the ballot, you know, like whether people were mad at Tomac for, you know, whatever reason, or whether they were mad at Marvin for cross jumping or, you know, whatever. I was just like, why? Like, it was a good, clean, hard race. Marvin crashed all by himself. It's not like Tomac put him there, and leave it at that, you know. Like, I understand that, you know, some of these races, there's history with the riders and stuff like that. So when it came down to stuff back in the day of like Reed versus Stewart, I can understand, you know, more picking apart races like that. But these guys had one incident is apparently just never going to stop dragging on, but should have been ironed over a while ago now. And, you know, I've talked repeatedly about one of these days Tomac has got to get him back, but he's kind of running out of the window, if you will. I figured this weekend was as good of a weekend as any to give it back to Marvin for Eli, especially in that first moto, because he ate Roos for so long, and then you could tell he was clearly getting frustrated with, you know, a little bit of the way that Marvin was riding. But I didn't, like I said, I didn't think it was that bad. I was fully expecting, like, this is going to be the moment. This is it. They're back in Massachusetts after the whole fiasco in Supercross. This is going to be that time where Tomac, you know, he just slices across an inside of a corner and just, you know, he'll probably wreck Marvin, but, you know, what's fair is fair at that point, and then we can move on. We can finally put it behind us, right? We can just say, look, Tomac got his shot, Marvin got his shot, it's over, we can move on and all be happy fans watching good racing. But it just seems like it never ends. And anyway, so Marvin went down that first moto, and Tomac had a you know, great victory there to deal with eating Roos for as long as he did and still come all the way through to win that race. Like I said, with Tomac, it's almost like he was a different guy coming into this season, where he was kind of like understanding of the fact that he was clearly better than everybody, and has been taking it easier. And that was totally the case in the first moto. Like, there was plenty of opportunities where he could have easily forced the issue, rode above his comfort zone, etc., but he stayed reserved, stayed within himself, waited for the mistake to come, and when it came, he took full advantage of it. Marvin went down, Tomac took the win. Jumping ahead to the second moto, however, it was oddly the old Tomac, and as much as of an old Tomac as it could be, I'm not even kidding you. I'm sitting on the couch, right, and I'm watching these, you know, the race go on, and I see Marvin get into the lead and Tomac get in a second again, and I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be a good battle. And then I start seeing like chunks of time going down on the timesheets between the two of them, and I'm like, what in the heck? And I'm looking at lap times, and Tomac is destroying Marvin, catches him really quickly. And I'm like, oh wow, this is kind of interesting. It seems like he's either found another gear or he's kind of riding a little bit over the top again. And I don't think that he was riding over the top. He looked completely in control. But this is the case with Tomac. He looks like he's got it all in hand, right? Like, he's fastest man on the planet and just handles it. And then it just something always happens, something weird, some little small, nuanced, weird thing always happens. I'm sitting on the couch, right, and I'm watching it with my couple of my friends, and they're big time Tomac fans, and they're like, oh wow, you know, Tomac's really killing it, and I'm like, yeah, he is, but it makes me nervous because this is the exact scenario that always seems to happen when he has one of his brain farts, where he's way faster than everybody and, you know, eats himself alive. Sure enough, gets the lead from Marvin, pulls out like a 10-second lead, continues growing it slowly but surely. And I must say that Marvin looked like he didn't really have it that second moto anyway, but Tomac was clearly better, like by far. And then, oddly enough, in this corner I'm down in, Tomac bites the dust. Really small, like minute mistake, and just kind of came up and bit him. Looked like he like hopped into the corner expecting to kind of have the bike go one way. It kicked another way. He ended up a little bit more sideways, and then immediately tucked the front end and smashed up his clutch, and his bar pad came loose, and like the bike was kind of banged up a little bit. He picked it up, kicked it, started going, got back in front of Marvin, and then this is why I felt like Marvin didn't really have it that moto, was that, you know, Tomac was down on the ground, got up in front of him, his bars and everything were all messed up, and then he started pulling back away again. So like, you know, surely he was, you know, nursing the bike a little bit there, but still to be able to just get right back away from Marvin, it just seemed a little bit odd to me, or just, you know, completely out of this world for Tomac. Starts getting away, and then in this corner, about 3 laps after that, he fell again all by himself. You know, another small mistake, lost to the front end, I think, on exit, and just buried the bike and went down. And when he got up, that was when it was over. It was time to settle back down into non-extraterrestrial land a little bit, and just coasted home for an easy second. And thus ends the second version of a perfect season. And, you know, everybody talks about the perfect season as being 24-0. Well, also, Carmichael and Stewart are the only 2 people to ever go 12-0 when it comes to overalls in a season, and they obviously did that when they went 24-0 to win all the motos. Tomac was almost on his way to, you know, keeping the 12-0 streak alive, as he was looking at a 1-1 performance at Southwick, a track that he, you know, historically owns, and was going to keep the streak at 6-0 going into Redbud, and then that happens. Marvin goes 2-1, Eli goes 1-2. They tie on points, so he doesn't lose any points on the day. However, it's a Marvin overall victory, and thus the perfect season is gone, which is a little bit of a bummer because the pace Tomac was on, it seemed like it was potentially a possibility this year because of those reasons that I had mentioned, where it seemed like he was different this year. It seemed like he had kind of realized, like, hey, I'm a bad dude. I can go 2 seconds a lap slower than my gnarliest levels and still have this thing easy and totally ride within myself. And like I said, I don't think that either of his crashes this weekend were like Tomac riding over his head. But this is just the scenarios that always seem to happen, where when he is this fast, he has these just little tiny minor, I call them brain farts, but you know, this one was more of just like a mistake that he wasn't expecting, and down he goes. And you know, like I said, it was kind of like no harm, no foul, because yeah, he lost the overall and that sucks, but he's still tied on points for the day, so he has a 32-point lead on Marvin still, and it stayed the exact same. But I don't know, like I said, it just felt so classic Tomac-ish, which I hate saying, because I don't like seeing him have those issues. I kind of like the new Tomac that we were seeing, where he was, you know, kind of running a more reserved role. It definitely seemed to make the racing better, because the old Tomac was win by a minute and a half or crash trying, and now it's like, I think I can win this race by 10 seconds. But man, oh man, as these motos go on, these guys are actually testing my limits with that. So, yeah, I guess no harm, no foul, like I said, and Tomac continues rolling, and the rest of the field continues slacking, essentially, because even though Baggett gets good starts, or, you know, when he gets a good start right now, he doesn't keep with Marvin, he doesn't keep with Eli. Barsha is pretty clearly the next best American out there, if not the next best rider lately, as Roxon's kind of hit a bit of a plateau in the season, I feel. And then, yeah, I mean, just nobody else is even on the same level as those guys. So that's kind of 450s wrap up a little bit. Let's move to 250s before it gets too late in this video. And of course, the hugest talking point of this weekend, I would say, is the Alex Martin Austin Forkner incident. And if you didn't watch it, basically what happened was Austin Forkner won the first moto, Alex Martin finished second. Alex Martin caught Austin Forkner in the second moto, and obviously whichever one of the two won the second moto between them would win the overall. And although Forkner isn't, or wasn't, way out of the championship, he's less in it than Amart is, as I feel like Alex Martin and Aaron Plessinger have kind of been established as like the two title contenders going forward from the rest of the season. So Amart was going for it. He wanted to make max points on Plessinger. He had an opportunity to win the second moto, and he got to Forkner, and then they made contact. And there's kind of two sides that I feel like people have been falling into, and one of them is racing incident, and the other is like over aggressive idiot, I guess. Not that they think Amart is an idiot, but the move itself was idiotic, is what I'm hearing. I fall in the spectrum of it was a racing incident. Yes, the two of them going down looked really bad. Forkner ended up in a heap on the ground because he knocked the wind out of him. But I think it was more or less a product of, two guys going for the exact same line that they both would have made, but the extreme angles that they were coming into the corner with made it look a lot worse. Like, obviously Amart is at fault here because he was behind and then, came alongside entering the corner. But I felt like, I saw a lot of backlash towards him saying, like, way to go, you cost Forkner the overall, blah, 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 which Amart cost himself the overall by going down. But, I mean, looking back at it over and over again, like, the reality here is Forkner doesn't even crash if the track isn't as rough as it is there, because he got stood up and then, like, jimmied over 3 ruts before eventually falling. It's not like he, punted Forkner and Forkner immediately flopped onto the other side of the track and went down. I mean, he rode a good 40, 50 feet before he eventually fell off the bike. So it wasn't like a full-on punt. And obviously Martin, trying not to hit him, came to a dead stop and went over the bars. So it was like, it was kind of poor judgment on Martin's part. But like I said, I just felt it was more racing, where two guys coming from the extreme opposite sides of the track were going for the same line, and unfortunately it didn't work out. Now, could Martin have waited and tried to make a pass a little bit later? That's a very reasonable case to make. I've seen people say that. The only thing I'd rebuttal with that is he tried to do that the first moto. In the first moto, he and Plessinger came from fairly far back to get to Forkner, who had led most of the race, and then they spent 10 minutes right behind him, unable to do anything with him. It was just the nature of that track and the way that, kind of the main line held up, and it was relatively tough to make a pass happen. We saw the same thing in the first moto where, Tomac really had to bide his time and size Marvin up to get a spot to even go around him. So in that second moto, you have to imagine that Martin behind Forkner there is thinking, like, golly, here we are again. I got 5 minutes and 2 laps left to go to get this kid. Do I really want to spend the next 10 minutes trying to find a nice, easy, clean way to pass him, or should I just go now? And clearly you see which route he chose, and I don't think that that's necessarily the wrong logic there, because if he did elect to wait again and just keep waiting and trying to find a spot, but probably not finding one because it was very tough to pass on, like I said, then he would just be sitting there forever wondering what if. And what if, now it doesn't really matter because he ended up losing more points by finishing 4th, but what if he did not go for the pass, finished 2nd, and in the end, those 3 points that he was trying to get from Forkner mean a ton in the championship down the road? Doesn't matter now because he lost points, but I'm just, trying to play both sides of the card here. Of course it sucks for Forkner. He got the wind knocked out of him, and he's looking to have a great day. Pro Circuit Kawasaki can't buy a break, it seems, but Like, Amart's not that kind of guy. He openly admitted on the podium that he felt very sorry about it. He apologized to Forkner, and, you know, life goes on. I hope that people can see that for what it really was instead of blow it out of proportion. And so far, what I've seen is, yeah, that's totally the case. People are more relaxed about it, and like, yeah, you know, it's racing. It happens from time to time again, and bummer deal for Forkner, bummer deal for Amart too. He lost points. Like I said, he was looking at worst going like 2-3 because he had Ferrandis right behind him. Probably going 2-2 or maybe even 2-1 to, you know, win the overall. Plessinger had another kind of weird day, 3-7. I don't really get it with Aaron. Like, he's one weekend he's fantastic, wins the first moto, wins the second moto, going away, clearly the fastest rider on the track, you know, fast lap after fast lap after fast lap. And then the next weekend, he looks like a shell of his former self. Like, he just doesn't have the same intensity, I guess. And, you know, maybe he's lacking with setup that weekend or something. But, you know, that's something that champions work past. And on those bad days, they still are able to corral together at worst, like a couple fourths or something like that. But Plessinger's been all over the board. He had a 5.9 at Muddy Creek, or a 9.4 or 8.4, and then he goes 3.7 at Southwick, and then you know, we go to Redbud next, which should be a pretty good track for him. You know, being from I think isn't he from Ohio, so it's not too far away from where he grew up, and he's really good on that loamy East Coast type dirt. So I'm sure Redbud would be a turnaround round for him comparatively to what he's been going through, but it's so weird to look at the point standings after the last couple weeks that Plessinger has had and seen that, you know, he's still as far out in front of Amart as he is. He's 29 points, I want to say, or maybe 26 now. So he's still a full moto distance ahead, and it just doesn't seem like that should be the case. But obviously he still has it, and now we're heading more into some tracks that he's a little bit more well-suited for. So I'm really curious to see how, you know, Amart's able to respond. Obviously, I think most people would say that Amart's going to win his literal home race at Millville. But I think Redbud would have to be a Plessinger type track. Unadilla, obviously, Indiana. Bud's Creek, I think, is more of a Plessinger type track. I think Washougal's a mix. I've seen Martin ride really well at Washougal before, and Plessinger seems to kind of be hit and miss at Washougal, but you know, that still puts a majority of the races remaining as like a Plessinger type track, and then you really have to say, man, it's tough to bet against him. But I like I said, I need to see a little bit more out of him before I'm sold that he's going to be the champion this year, because it just hasn't looked, you know, right these last couple weeks, him struggling as bad as he has. So but anyway, kind of a little bit of a 250 synopsis there as well. We definitely have kind of a blown open championship in that 250 class, because there's not that much parity or distance, I should say. Parity is the wrong word, but distance behind Alex Martin in the standings. You know, there's still guys that are fairly close. You know, a couple bad races from Plessinger and a bad race from Martin, and suddenly a couple other guys are really in the discussion here. So excited to see the 250 class going forward. I think the 450 class is relatively a foregone conclusion. But that being said, talking about, you know, favorite tracks versus non, Southwick is definitely a Tomac track, but moving forward, you know, Redbud probably still a Tomac track, but then we get to places like Washougal and Unadilla, which are super, you know, favorited towards European riders. I mean, Marvin's done really good at Washougal and Unadilla both in the past. Yeah, obviously we still have Bud's Creek and Indiana mixed in there, one other race in Millville. I think that would still be a Tomac track, but we'll have to see. I don't know. I think it's a pretty foregone conclusion Tomac's the man to beat right now, but Marvin's been giving him run for his money lately. You know, this is the third race in a row, I should say, that Marvin got at least one of the two moto wins. Won the first moto at High Point, won the second moto at Muddy Creek, now won the second moto at Southwick. And yeah, it just seems like Tomac is on, Tomac is off, and then Musquin is on, Musquin is off. I don't know. Good racing. Anyway, that's a little bit of a Southwick synopsis. I rode terribly this whole video, and I deeply apologize for that. My sim skills are literally going deeper and deeper down the toilet as I flush it. It's unbearable to play this game sometimes now because of how not good I am at it anymore, knowing how good I once was at it, but it's okay. Still have fun and still enjoy playing it and talking about the real life stuff like I said. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, please be sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell button to be notified when our latest videos come out, because there's been a lot of videos coming out lately, and I appreciate it nonetheless that you guys support us. So thanks for watching again. I'm Kellen, and I'll see you guys in the next one.